think we are live. Alright, let's see here. Okay, so let's get the weird thing out of the way. Why are we on Twitch? So I've been wanting to do content on Twitch for a while, or at least I've been interested in doing it for a while. But with gaming, it seems it's always been this way, but it's saturated. It's really hard to break out. Um, it's really hard to break out as or grow a channel from just playing games. If you're particularly like me, somebody who's not super funny or really good or like a pro at a game, right? Like a Shroud or a Ninja. If you guys have heard of those guys, I'm sure. Um, so one of the things that has happened with Twitch and Mixer as of recent is um, they've sort of opened a door for content creators, musicians, artists with this like just chatting category that we're in right now. To sort of put out their art, put out their music. Like the other day, I was watching this guy play guitar from his living room and for an audience of over 100 people, right? And they were donating and all this other stuff, and I thought that was kind of interesting, right? As well as like people painting or just chatting, right? Taking a break from gaming. But I am a gamer, no doubt, and I sort of am trying to figure out a way to blend both of my passions, right? So here we are on Twitch. Um, it would be cool to sort of. I don't really have like a structure for this, and I don't really have like a clear vision. I guess it would be cool to have like people interacting and engaging. It would be it would be super cool to just have like a place where it's chill. It's not like this very strict Q&A podcast that everybody in Seahawks Twitter, we've got like five, six, I don't know how many podcasts we're at this point, and just to be clear, I'm still contributing with Tasteful Profanity and Beast Mode. I was actually talking to Mikey about doing something like this, um, and he seemed to be all for it, which was pretty cool, right? So I had this idea. I sort of stole it from Taylor Jacobs at 710, that with his Real Hawk Talk, where he was like interviewing players this season and playing games at the same time, and I just sort of like dawned on me like, hey, there's an opportunity here to sort of create content on Twitch. Maybe I could have guests on in the future. We just play like a game of Madden and have a conversation, as opposed to, like I said, just a strict Q&A podcast, where it's, you know, uh, I don't know, just the traditional format. Anyways, I'll quit blabbering and get on to the topic at hand. And I guess for tonight, we're not going to talk about uh, what my beliefs are and the coaches. Should they stay? Should they go? I don't want to talk about run pass splits. I don't want to talk about like any of that. I want to focus on team building, right? Something that's kind of a hot topic right now as we approach the combine, free agency, the draft. I just really want to focus on the current state of the offense, um, position by position, and kind of go over the past, the current state, potential future state. Um, you can kind of see on the screen right now. I've got a little bit of information as to like the snapshot of today of who's under contract. And then maybe like in the next episode or the next time I go live, we'll do the defense and just kind of keep going with with like whatever topic that we want to talk about. But for now, let's just kind of focus on team building. Um, Something that I really enjoy. It's something that um, If you're a gamer, like you play Madden franchise mode, I know some of you guys that on here that are watching like make plays. Thank you for the follow, dude. Appreciate it. I know you're a big Madden guy. Team building and franchise mode is like one of my favorite things, but following it in like real life is something that everybody in Seahawks Twitter, or if you're a fan of your team, like it's it's amazing. Like the NFL offseason is unmatched. It's awesome. So what's up, make plays? Thanks for tuning in, dude. I really appreciate it, honestly. Um, we'll have to get you on and talk some fantasy here pretty soon. I didn't do so hot this year. I felt really good about my team, dude. And we were talking early in the season, and I felt so good about my squad, and it didn't look too bad. Like I'll share the snapshot with you, but it was not good. But anyways, we're not talking fantasy right now. Oh, we might have a few sidebars. We can talk Saints too if you want a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. We're not going to talk Taysom Hill or Teddy Bridgewater. Sorry, I'm not gonna go there, bud. So offense. Let's just go through the first, which is obvious, right? The quarterback. Um, there's not a question with Seattle, obviously, at the starting position. Russell Wilson last year was every bit of phenomenal as we had hoped for and expected. I think towards the end of the year, for whatever reason, I had heard that he was secretly dealing with like an ankle sprain or an ankle injury. I want to be careful about how I word that, but something I had heard behind the scenes was that he was not feeling 100% after that San Francisco game, and it sort of lingered for a while. And we could see that he was not taking off as much. He was not using his legs for a few weeks, and it wasn't until like the playoffs really did he come back to feeling what I think is as close to 100% as an NFL player can be in the playoffs. Um, he was phenomenal. Again, I don't want to go into like strategies or offensive philosophy as much. We could just debate that for hours on what we already have. Um, but overall, I think um, overall I think the the offense did pretty well, especially if you're following DVOA or if you believe in that. Again, we're not going to get off on that tangent. We're going to stick to team building. So the void really is at QB2, right? So um, the backup quarterback position has been something that from the beginning of the PCJS era we've heard about. We're going to add quarterbacks every year. We're going to constantly be looking for quarterbacks, and we just have not really seemed to have any success grooming a backup. You know, um, I think the closest thing to something exciting was maybe Boykin, but then he had his off-field issues, and that just like like disappeared. Like it just ever since then, it's just been veterans and stopgaps, and it just really hasn't, for whatever reason, panned out for them. They've not been able to hit on a backup QB for some time, and so for the 2020 season, what do you guys think? Like, are they going to go with another like Geno Smith type veteran free agent, for shekels, like less than $1 million, vet min, um, or should they go after a rookie? Should they go back to a young guy? Obviously, the ideal situation is having a young guy that you can groom, right? Potentially, groom and that way you have some, but like speaking of the Saints we were talking about earlier, like look what they could have done if they had the will to trade Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, having a backup quarterback is not a high priority for Seattle. I would say it's a low priority going into this offseason, but it's something that um, it's hard enough for most teams to find one, right? So it's kind of like a luxury to say they need to lock in a quarterback too, or it's a failure, right? I think they're fine again if they kick the can down the road, for lack of a better term, and just go with another veteran for a year. Ideally, yes, it would be great to get a young guy, but I see you said Mariota in free agency. He's a curious case to me, dude. Um, I've been talking with Will Cornell. Me and him have been hanging out quite a bit actually, recently, and you guys know he's a big Oregon Ducks fan. And we've been talking about like it was Tennessee just like the bad a bad spot for him. Like, would a change of scenery be would that help him, or is he just washed? Does he just not have the ceiling? Does he just not have it to be a franchise guy? Excuse me. I think it would be interesting to see him go to a different system, right, and get a change of scenery. I definitely think there's no way Tennessee can retain him. Like once you move on from that guy and replace him, it's sort of like the writing's on the wall. So it'll definitely be interesting to see where Mariota lands, but um, I don't think that's financially feasible because I think he'll still get a decent contract, right? He's got starting experience in this league. He's still relatively young when you're talking about quarterbacks. He's athletic. Um, at least last time I watched him, he still had decent legs. Um, I don't think it's an option for Seattle, but I am interested to see where he goes if he gets another chance with another team. Fiddles on the roof. Thanks for the follow, dude. Um, you said Alex Smith would be an awesome backup if he comes back from his injury and wants another year of rest. Yeah, I don't know what his situation is. The last time I heard, I mean, that was a pretty scary injury, right? They were saying something like he almost lost a limb or like died or something. It was like something crazy. Um, Alex Smith is another guy that's interesting, but I just don't know um, that that's an ideal fit for what Seattle wants to do. I think if he was healthy, right? If you were purchasing or not, I don't want like if you were going to make a play at Alex Smith because he was healthy, the market would be um, the market would be much higher, I think, for him. And so the Seattle in particular has to go cheap here. Whatever they do, it's two options to me. It's not going to be a big name. It's not going to be some popular name that's fallen off or like a Mariota type. I don't think that's the move. I don't think Alex Smith is the move, even healthy, especially healthy. I think I think you want to just stick with the cheap veteran if you can't get a guy that you really like in this draft, which I wouldn't be taking a quarterback inside of day three, right? So it's going to be another dart throw. It might be another Magoo situation, right? Where the heck is that guy at, by the way? Like, what happened to him? Wonder if he's in the XFL or a practice squad. Wasn't he like Jacksonville practice squad or something? Derek, what's up, dude? You said I say let Gino and a UDFA battle it out. Yeah, I think that's closer to the truth. Familiarity, right? That there's some value in that. The experience, there's some value in that. The fact that he's uh, still relatively athletic, right? He's, even as an old guy, by all means a bust, right, from where he was drafted. But he's been around. He's seen a few things. Um, and just the familiarity with this offense. I think he's definitely a guy that you consider. Um, if we bounce over to our good friends at not over the cap, but they are good friends. Uh, our good friends. I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody at Spot Track. It's kind of a thick free agent pool for quarterback, right? So there's a lot of names on here. You guys can't see them because I'll figure out in the future how to blow this up. I'm not the most tech savvy, even for a millennial, but some names on here. AJ McCarron. I'm just going below like all the obvious big hitter names. Like I don't foresee Seattle going after Bridgewater. I don't see them going after Mariota. I don't see them going after, and there's a drop off after Mariota, right? Um, you're talking about a bunch of just journeyman, non-athletic guys. Um, so it's not Blake Bortles. uh, it's just not a lot here. So yeah, I mean, I think Geno Smith could be like your best option. Maybe call him back or and maybe draft a guy in the third day. So I don't think we need to ramble anymore about quarterback, but it is a very popular topic. So let me know if you guys have any other ideas. I haven't looked at this draft class at all yet. I usually wait until around the time the combine gets going. Then I like to like sort of go back, watch the film. I always start with quarterbacks for some reason. That's how I've always done it when I do evals. I'll take the combine, then the game film, and sort of kind of watch some interviews. I really like to watch interviews for quarterbacks. Some people don't care about that. For me, like the interview for the quarterbacks is like it's a big deal. It's a big part of the grade, in my opinion. Right? You're going to be the potential face of the NFL franchise. Biddles, you said, fair enough. I figured at 52 years old, coming off that injury, he'd be looking for a smaller deal, similar to Teddy. I think you might be surprised about his market value. I think what he showed while Breeze was hurt this year, I think that lands him a decent payday. I think Alex Smith is, if he even plays this year, I don't know. I don't even want to speculate really on it, but I think Teddy's deal would surprise you. So if we move on to, I agree with Teddy about Teddy. Teddy will get $25 million somewhere. I was talking about Teddy in his first year of FA coming off the injury. Okay, my bad, dude. Running back, Seattle's running backs. So when I wrote down notes for this, I put the priority level at moderate, and it's really just because of the injuries. So Carson's now got this hip injury that is similar to Delano Hill's, and that kind of bothers me. We saw Delano Hill lose like permanent speed this year. That sort of bothers me. I don't want to say that because it happened to Delano, it's going to happen to Carson, but when you really combine these two big injuries, plus the fact that he's coming into a contract year, I love Carson. I think he, as a healthy guy, he's an RB1, but this position, man, is just it's a war of attrition, and when you're a power back, it's really hard to stay. It's hard to stay healthy as a football player. When you're a running back, it's even harder. When you're a power back, triple that, man. So we really had it made when we were in prime Marshawn days, because he was available all the time, and we just got spoiled with that. Like what you're seeing with Derrick Henry now coming on, that's rare, man, for a power back to just be available 30 carries or 20 plus carries even a week when you have that style. It's just it's just hard to play 16 games every year and count on that guy. So I wrote it as a priority level moderate, like a mid level to add this year. I don't think you want to spend big. Obviously, you're not going to spend big. Uh, Carson healthy as your horse, Penny as your rotating guy. Maybe I think Penny healthy earned himself more reps. I think that you know if it were me, I would have them full on 50-50 running back by committee, and that's something that I would have never like thought I would think was ideal just a couple years ago. But I think Penny definitely has earned himself a bigger role in this offense, and regardless of where he was drafted, I don't care about that anymore. Like I don't care that he was a first round pick. I don't care. Like it doesn't. I just see it for what it is, right? The player, the skill set, and how the team views it, right? Carson is this hammer, first down, second down, and Penny has this different skill set. I see the player for his skill set. I don't see it for like, oh well, they draft him as a round in the first round, so he's obviously going to work his way into a starting role, and that might be the case in the future if they don't pay Carson. But as of now, to me, that I wouldn't put any pressure if I was a coach on Penny to like, okay, with Carson hurt, now is your time to you need to, you know, um, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, get into that starting position somehow. So they're going to battle. They're going to split reps. It's going to be similar to last year. Homer's a great three. Got some great experience this year, but something I've been hearing on like sports radio that's sort of clickbaity is, do you bring back Marshawn Lynch? Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing Marshawn back for a year, um, just as sort of like a novelty, right? Just to have him around. I think clearly when they brought him back, they were in desperate measures, right? But there was also like that was kind of like a strategy move in my opinion, right? He was John Schneider was bringing in a guy that would sort of calm the fans down and it was a distraction. It was a low key distraction on the objective fire that was going on, which was that you lost Carson and Penny on the year. So, in regards to 2020, if he wants to come in as an RB4, then and just occasionally help out, then that's cool, and I don't have any problem with that. But I think you probably want to keep an eye on this position for 2021. I don't think 2020 it's a big priority, but if we're talking future state, right, which is something I wanted to talk about or mention in the previous tweets, future state running back, you probably, I don't know, it might be looking too far ahead to speculate on whether or not it's a good idea to. Well, I know what the opinion is of running backs don't matter circle on paying Carson, but from the team perspective, I think it's a little early to say yes or no on paying him. So I would keep it in the back of your mind for 2021. That might be a low key priority going forward. Fullback, I'm just kind of over it. I don't know about you guys, but I think we've talked about it at the beginning of last season. I'm just kind of over it. I don't see them utilizing it enough to warrant keeping him on a fullback. I'm not hating on Nick Ballou at all. I'm just saying the fullback position in general. It's been fading out of the league. Only a handful of teams keep one around, and even the teams that have one, if you look at the personnel groupings and frequency in which they use these, it's just becoming less and less. Even the Seahawks, who run the ball a ton and have a fullback, they're in 11 personnel, which is one running back and one tight end, no fullback. 73%. They were in 11 personnel 73% of the time. That's not even including other personnel groupings without a fullback. I mean, it just doesn't make to me. It just doesn't make a bunch of sense to me, other than in like very specific niche situations, like down and distance situations, uh, or if you're really trying to sell run and for play action, bringing the fullback out. Play action we know works regardless, but it really helps sell when you have a heavy formation and with a fullback. Um, so I would just like to see that position go. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of over it. I'd like to keep another tight end with the injuries that Seattle's been having. Why not like have a fourth tight end on the roster? I've been talking about this for a year or two now. Um, you don't run a bunch of 12 personnel, depending on whether you credit George Fant, an actual tight end. I know when I was charting it, I did count him as a tight end, but technically he's just an extra offensive lineman, so you would count those plays as 11 personnel. Um, the th- so again, it's like I'm sort of just rambling on here, but I see Fiddles. You said go get Hunter Henry. Again, man, I think that's just a little too spicy for what Seattle's going to do. And you got to think about their style, right? Hunter Henry is a phenomenal player, but to get him pried away from the team that drafted him, what that would cost, and then the value it adds to your team, is he really a style fit? Is he really going to be implemented in a way, that really warrants what you have to give up for a guy for what you have to give up for a guy like Henry? We sort of went through that experience with Jimmy Graham in the past. Like he was good statistically, but definitely underutilized in my opinion. Even as productive as he was for all-time Seattle Seahawks tight ends, that's not a long list of prolific tight end names. Um, I think Seattle is going to just double down on Will Dissly being a stud, a superstar. That's your Hunter Henry. I don't foresee a Hunter Henry trade. I've heard other people talk about O.J. Howard as being a potential trade possibility. I don't think that's in the cards either. Similar to a Hunter Henry situation, I don't think Tampa Bay is ready to move on from him just yet, and it would cost you way more than you want to spend on a guy that's underproduced. He's definitely an intriguing athlete. There's no question about that. Could he help you? For sure, but you've got to really think about the business side, and not just the fan side. I just want a good player who's potentially available. You got to think about it like the team would, right? The whole picture. And I don't know. It's not in the cards to me. I think what you want to do at tight end, you see my highlight in red here. First round of business, cut Ed Dixon, right? Like we've been talking about this on Twitter already. I don't want that guy around. I don't think you could say, let's go to over the cap really quick. I know we've tweeted about this, but just for reference, we're looking at saving. Where is he here? I should have had this ready to go already. So you're only taking a dead hit of $866,000, but you're saving $3.2 million. That's an easy cut for me. I think he's easily replaceable. There's been talks of Greg Olsen coming in for a visit. I think while that's not like what everybody wants to hear, right? Because he's over the hill and he's been retired and got one foot out of the door. You get kind of questioned, like, is he really still committed to football? I think that's why you bring him in for a visit. You got to ask him that. You got to talk to him. You got to see where he's at mentally, if he's committed to really doing everything, because he's not going to come in here and just skate along. Like you've seen the Seahawks practices, you've heard about how they are. He's not gonna just get to loaf around. He's going to have to work, and it's something for a guy that's been around the league that long might not be that intriguing to him. So we'll see how that goes. But I think first order of business is save your 3.2 million in cutting Dixon, and I think you've got to retain Hollister. Right? He was very good for what you gave up. Um, I know people have the recency bias will tell you, well, those last few, like the last play in the San Fran game, and I'm blanking on the playoff game, of course, but he's been in a couple near miss situations, but overall, that guy was an absolute hit. And as a restricted free agent, I think that's a guy you absolutely want to tender, retain, get him back in here. And if you have Will Dissly healthy, if you have a guy like Greg Olson or some other um, ideally healthy veteran um, that you don't have to spend a lot of money on, I think that's the best way to go. And then retaining Hollister and he was third on the team in like, I don't know if you guys noticed, he was third in receptions for Seattle last year. Um, he was involved. He was loving the tight end last year. Um, so I think he's your receiving threat, right? Obviously, just the way he's built, he's sort of a tweener. The guy that you want to get is sort of a veteran, knows his way around the system, can kind of fit in here and provide leadership, but block well and just kind of be a good role player, veteran role player. I don't think it's going to be a high priority in the draft. I don't think teams that even really need tight ends should necessarily prioritize tight ends in the draft super high. Like, look at the O.J. Howard situation. Look at the T.J. Hawkinson situation. Like, the entire draft is sort of a gamble, right? It's a dart throw, but with tight ends, like, you're just hoping that they turn into the next Travis Kelce or Rob Gronkowski, but many times it's just like even the best tight ends are not worth taking in day one. So I think this is a moderate priority level. You want to add a veteran in free agency. You don't want to spend highly in the draft. I don't think you want to seek out a blockbuster trade. Fiddles, you said Hunter Henry is a free agent. We have the money, got to spend it somewhere. I agree. We got to spend money. Definitely, we've got the flexibility to do it. I don't know that it's going to be in the tight end spot, though. I think if you were going to spend a significant, like a tier 2 level or a high tier level contract, it would be going to an offensive lineman, which we'll get to in a bit. But even then, I'm not sure they'll do that. Again, I don't want to skip ahead just yet. Again, no big blockbuster trade for tight end. I think this is something that they're going to bank on Will Dissly being the superstar. So I guess we can move on now to offensive line. To me, this is priority level very high. Again, I don't want to get into well, I guess we can talk about a little bit of like what happened last year. They were built to be a run blocking team. They did okay. They actually, depending on what metric you use, they were okay to terrible. I don't have the stats up right now on PFF or Football Outsiders, the two popular ones that people like to, or ESPN pass block win rate. Those are the two really popular ones that popular grading system metrics or whatever you want to call it that people use to evaluate offensive line play. And I would say that yes, they need to prioritize pass rush. Pass protection. They do need pass rush, but we're not talking about that today. But mostly in the sense, I really want to focus on the team building part. But they sort of declined. 2018, 2018 was a decent year for them. Um, I was expecting them to be a very good unit this year. Like what Dwayne Brown was saying about them being a top 5 group at the beginning of the year, I was buying into that hype. Because I saw the progression. I saw Solari have success with like guys like what was his name, Jordan Simmons, like stuff that it just we hadn't seen in a while, like real progression, technique, coaching, actually resonating with the players. And then the continuity that they had, it was really good. But last year, it sort of took a decline. And I think there's still potential in this unit, but we're going to see a lot of turnover. Um, it's incomplete, so maybe I can't really say with confidence that it's going to be better immediately. But there are some exciting things to look forward to. But let's start with left tackle. So Dwayne Brown getting a bit older. Depending on who you would ask, has already started declining. But he battled through his injuries, right? So um, when he's healthy, we know what we're getting. But what we need to keep in the back of our mind, again, maybe for 2021 future state, is we need to kind of get out in front of this. I'm not saying it's a high priority for a left tackle, but we need to keep in the back of our mind that um, that we don't. I guess I'll put it to you this way: we don't want an Andrew Whitworth type situation where, yeah, he's 33, 34 years old, and he's great one year, right? And when the Rams went to the Super Bowl, and then this last year just completely fell off. Was a completely different player. The age finally set in, and now the Rams have to figure that out. I don't want Seattle to be back in a situation where the starting left tackle spot, is all of a sudden a problem. And so I think the void at left tackle too is, or just tackle in general, right? Because we lost Fetty as well. Finding a starting caliber tackle, whether he played left side or right side in college, is a high priority. I'm talking absolutely within the first day or second day of the draft. Um, Debatable whether you want to spend your first round pick on an offensive lineman, especially at the back half. But I have heard, again, I haven't looked at the class myself, but I've heard from other people that study the draft or draft nicks, and just guys who have been doing it for some time, that this is actually a decent class for offensive linemen. So that's encouraging to hear. Hopefully we can get one of those guys this year. So left tackle 2 is a void. We don't have a backup. We'll just talk about tackles, I guess, with Fetty being out and or being a free agent, Fant being a free agent. We really don't have it. We don't have a starting right tackle. Currently, that's Jamarco Jones, but he played guard this year. So I'm just slotting him in there because that's what he played in college. I figured naturally. I don't foresee this being like a situation going into the season, but as of today, this is what it looks like, right? So you might as well put right tackle as a void because we don't have anybody there. So you've got to come away with a good quality potential starter out of the draft. Brian Bulaga fiddles. You said that that's a good option, and I don't know what he did last year. I don't know if he's coming off an injury. I know he's an older guy. I know potentially. I don't know what his market value would be right now. I just haven't gotten a chance to look at him. I definitely think this is something that Seattle wants to address in the draft. I've heard some people talk about. Let's pop over to another popular free agent, younger guy, Conklin. That's it. Thank you, Fiddles. Conklin, I've heard some people talk about him as a potential replacement for Fetty. Actually saw our buddy Rob Staten arguing with somebody online about how he didn't think that it financially made sense to pay a guy like Conklin. Let's look at the market value. He's a 15. I mean, this is projected, right? We don't know what the actual number is going to be, but we can guess if we go off this number or around this number. That's a pretty pricey free agent. Um, Depending on who you ask, that might be worth it. It might not be. Maybe you want to plug in a young guy there and not spend. Seattle is already on the books for having. If we look at offensive spend versus defensive, we're at $92 million on the books versus $54 million on the books for defense for 2020. So defense spend has got to go up for sure, and you're probably going to get that in Clowney and maybe Reed and maybe some other free agents as well. But as it pertains to offense, I don't know that they are thinking about spending big. What I would like to see them do is let Ifedi test the market, let Fant test the market because he's earned that. He's going to anyway. Whether he's earned it or not doesn't really matter. But maybe give those guys a call back. I know that's an unpopular take. Maybe not Ifedi. Maybe just let that guy go. But definitely bring Fant back if the market isn't there for him. I think he's definitely earned that. And I don't think the league values a George Fant nearly as much as Seattle. So I think there's a good chance that he could potentially be back in Seattle for a pretty valuable, a low price, a fair price. He's earned that. But nothing too spendy. I'm fine with Ifedi going. If he never plays another down in Seattle. I don't have anything against the guy. I think he improved. I think he dramatically improved his game this last year, and really the last 2 years. Technique more this year, and once another noteworthy thing was once Dwayne Brown came in, I think he really helped mentor him on the mental side of like the silly penalties, the stuff after the play is already over. Being aware of the situation, right, the down and distance, and like if you're really going to commit a stupid penalty right here, what are the consequences? He really got that under control this year. So I think as much flack as Jermaine Ifedi has gotten, he definitely deserves to get out in the market and feel around and get a fair market value deal. But I'm not going to lose any sleep if he goes to another team, and we have to replace him with another rookie or a Bulaga, right? Or if we get Conklin, everybody's going to be just the fan side is going to be ecstatic, right? There's business implications to that. There's money implications to that, but the fan side is going to be jazzed that we signed a guy like that. That would be huge, and I got to admit, I would be right along with you there, Fiddles. If Conklin got a big deal here in Seattle, maybe it's not the most optimal way to spend money right now with the way the offense and defensive splits look, but I would be excited. The fan in me would be jacked because he would be a stalwart starter for you for a handful of years, right? You would just you could plug and play, set it and forget it. Not have to worry about that position for, like I said, a handful of years. So guards, let's go interior. I don't see DJ Fluker losing his spot. I think it would be good to get some competition in there. Obviously, we have a void at right guard 2 right now. Some internal guys that are restricted free agents like Jordan Ruse. He's definitely done everything they've asked. He's played left side, right side. He's learned how to snap. He's just kind of lived on our practice squad. It would be cool to see him come back. I'm not saying it's like a priority reacquisition, but I would like to see him back. I just realized we skipped over wide receiver. Maybe let's save that for last. Um, interior offensive line. So Fluker, don't see him being uplifted. We've got to avoid at right guard too. Um, Left guard is interesting to me because you could say that there is a void with Upati leaving, but I'm pretty confident that the incumbent starter is Phil Haynes. I think I can't say for sure, right? I'm sort of going out on a limb here, and I've been wrong about a ton of predictions in the past, as you guys know. But I just have this feeling that Phil Haynes is a guy that um, is just gonna plug and play there from the week one of next year. They can throw competition at him. They can add a veteran in there. Um, you can you can you can have even Posick go. I don't want to skip ahead, but I just think Haynes is the right guy. That will. I'm encouraged by what we saw. Derek, you said Haynes looks very comfortable in pass pro versus Green Bay. Agree, dude. I don't know if you saw the clip I threw up of all his snaps in that game. Um, I had been talking with Mike at Beast Pod and some of the guys about how he had looked. I had heard something from inside the building that uh, he had looked great in one-on-ones. He was dominating every single defensive lineman in 1v1 drills, and I just got jacked about that, his strength, and I wanted to see if that translated when he got his opportunity on the field. And the fact that he looked good in pass pro has me even more excited because we lack that right now, right? So um, having a guy be able to start young and developing an internal guy that we drafted is something that we just have not been able to do for years now. Like everybody, look at the recent starters. Like other than Justin Britt, Dwayne Brown was we acquired him via trade. Effetti didn't pan out for all intents and for for the most part didn't pan out. Not for a first rounder. Um, your guards, external gets right. Fluker was a free agent. Fetty, free agent. Before him, Sweezy, a free agent. So we've been relying on external experience because, for whatever reason, because offensive line is harder to draft now than it was 5-10 years ago. Um, because we can't develop our own guys, or we've had trouble developing our own guys, whether it's health, preventing guys from getting the necessary experience um, that is required to develop. That's a fair observation. That's a fair point to bring out. For whatever reason, we just have not been able to to nail the internal guy. But I'm very excited about Phil Haynes. So that is, I feel pretty comfortable if they don't make it a priority, left guard that is, and go with him as the starter. Ethan Posick is technically still listed as a left guard, but I think with the way Joey Hunt admirably played, although admirable, uh, I let's just be frank. He was not good. He cerebrally, mentally, he's a pro. That guy gets it, and he can make the line checks and all the things that they talk about to help the quarterback focus on less, right? When you have a guy in there that can't make the line checks, that responsibility goes to the quarterback, and that just adds another pre-snap responsibility to the quarterback that he really shouldn't have. Occasionally they'll share that line checking. They'll share that if the quarterback sees something specifically in the front seven, or just the way the defense is aligned. They'll share that responsibility. You might call out, but for now, Justin Britt has been doing that. Joey Hunt was good at that. If Ethan Posick can slide in as your backup center and play that natural position that he played, I think that's ideal, right? So I would like to move him. Let's do that now. Let's move him over here. And forgive my basic Excel talent here. It's very a basic looking spreadsheet. Ideally Posick at backup center. And then the hot topic, which is Justin Britt. That's what I want to get to. So I've been hearing. Obviously, we've already been looking at like who's potential cap casualties. You see Ed Dixon is highlighted in red. I think he's a cap casualty. Justin Britt, debatable, right? Depending on who you ask. In my opinion, this is a guy that you cannot cut for cap. This is not a guy that you risk letting go, creating another starting void. You've already got We've already got a void at right tackle, and you've got a bunch of just guys: Chad Wheeler, Demetrius Knox, Kyle Fuller. You've got just some guys as depth. There's nothing here, right, to fall back on. So I don't think Justin Britt is a guy that you want to create a cut and create a immediate high priority void for. I think he, again, this is debatable. I've spoken with some guys like John Gilbert, who's really smart about the CBA and rules, and I just really respect his opinion. He disagrees with me when I say I think Justin Britt is a good restructure candidate. I think there's some incentive for Justin Britt to consider taking some more guaranteed money now, coming off an injury, approaching 30. I think there's incentive for him to consider taking money now up front, securing a few more years for his future, right? As opposed to betting on himself coming off the knee, playing out this contract and then going to the market, which there's no guarantee he'll stay healthy. There's no guarantee that he'll play well enough to make more money than he's making in 2019, which is, I should have memorized this by now. I think it's like 11 million overall. 11.6 million is what Justin Britt is due to make. He's only guaranteed. The reason why he's a potential cap casualty, for those of you that are wondering, is he's only guaranteed 2.9 million of that 11.6. So you could save a lot of money, right? So there's this appeal, like you can save a ton of money and just assume that you can find a replacement level guy or a better upgrade there and move on. I don't think that's the case. I think he's super underrated and should definitely not be cut. I think we should explore restructuring his contract, potentially offer him like a 3-year extension. Again, I've heard it argued the other way that why would he even be up for restructuring when he can just bet on himself and get to the market. But I think when you've only got 2.9 million guaranteed right now, and you can only make no more than 11.6 in 2020, versus potentially locking up 3 years of guarantees, even if that is at a lower ceiling. Like if you could guarantee him 8 per year, say, I don't know if that's fair. I'm just saying if you could guarantee him 8 in 2020, 21, 20, that's 24. What's my math here? 24 million guaranteed versus the 2.9 he has right now. I mean, how is that illogical? To approach a man coming off a knee, what would be his third contract, which a lot of guys don't get the chance to see. I think there is some incentive for him to consider that, even if the potential ceiling per year, average per year, is lower than what it could be if he bets on himself, has a Pro Bowl season, and gets to the market and makes, whatever, top 8 center money. Although if we were ranking it by 3 scenarios, I would say it goes like this. The least likely is he's a cap casualty. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the second most likely thing to happen is the restructure, right? Because it's hard to make these things happen. Sometimes two sides got to come to an agreement. It's not just like one side of the party has to make a decision here. I think the most likely thing to happen is he probably just plays out his contract under the current terms. Whether he gets hurt in the year, plays a Pro Bowl season, I think the most likely thing is he probably ends up just playing out this contract, and then the Seahawks can revisit extending him at the end of the year, or he can test the market. He's never gotten that opportunity yet. I know a lot of players have an interest in testing the market. It's like they just have this curiosity, right? Like, what other teams are interested in my services? Like, I played for one team my entire career. Like, I just want to know, right? So there is that. But again, I don't think he's a cap casualty. I think that's the least likely thing to happen here. Lastly, wide receiver. Sorry for messing around with this. Wide receiver. So depending on who you ask, this is a higher priority than it may look, or it may not be. A couple days ago, I was saying it's not a very high priority. Don't get your hopes up in the draft. There's guys eyeballing this kid from TCU. I think his name's Jalen Rieger. If I'm pronouncing that right, hopefully I am. He seems to be like the next Seahawks Twitter favorite, right? That just everybody gravitates to, sort of like DJ Moore from Maryland a couple years ago. I have not gotten a chance to look at wide receivers. Again, I will get to that. I will definitely put some content out about that in the near future as we approach the combine. But I don't know a lot about college receivers right now. I'm just sort of like familiarizing myself with some of the popular names. I do think wide receiver is a high priority, but I don't necessarily think it's a high draft priority. As you can see, if you were to carry 6 wide receivers, as I have it here, as of today, you've got 3 positional voids, right? The only guys you have on contract are Locke, DK, and our boy John Ursua. You've got 3 voids to fill there. And the thing that I was talking to Griff at C Mike Spin Move about the other day was... I don't know if we were really talking about it, but we were DMing back and forth, tweeting at each other. It's becoming more apparent to me that because this team plays so much 11 personnel, starting to wrinkle in 10 personnel, and just what they want to do and what the quarterback what the quarterback likes, what he needs, what he's asked for, like with Josh Gordon. Or previously, like with the rumors with like AB before he went on his tirade, there seems to be a higher priority on wide receiver 3 than in the past. And I think what you'll see them do is target like a free agent veteran. Obviously, a popular name that's come up is AJ Green. He's a guy that missed last season, the entire season, due to injury. Absolutely wants out of a rebuilding Cincinnati. They're going through a quarterback change. They're going through a philosophy change. And he's another guy that just, he's never had an opportunity to get out to the market. So why wouldn't he just that curiosity, want to fulfill that curiosity to see who's interested in? Seattle's not going to be the only team that reaches out to him. There's going to be multiple teams looking for a veteran, potentially with a year or two of gas left in the tank. But I do think he's a guy that they'll target. I've seen some, like at C Mike Spin Move Griff, for those of you that know him over at Tasteful Profanity, he was bringing up the potential trade for like a guy like Allen Robinson. That would be a blockbuster deal if you could pry him away from Chicago. I guess I almost said Jacksonville because that's where he started, but he's been with Chicago. Prying him away from that team, again, I think that would be pretty pricey. It'd be definitely a blockbuster move. And if you bring in a guy like Allen Robinson, I don't think he would be your I don't know if you could ask him to be wide receiver 3 based on what you have to give up to get him, right? So I think you can spend some money at this position in free agency. You definitely want to invest in at least one big guy, big name or big acquisition, but I don't think it's in day one of the draft. I think it's going to be a guy like AJ Green. Um, I haven't looked at a whole bunch of names on the free agent list. I mean, we could take a look right here. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but in terms of unrestricted free agents at wide receiver, if my internet would work. So AJ Green's at the top. They have his projected market value at, come on, load. While we're waiting for that. Okay, so $9 million. Go ahead and pay him that. If that's the number, sign me up. For a year, 2 years, 2-year deal is what they say fair market value would be for him at 9.1 average a year. Sign me up for that. I'm fine with that. I think that's a good ballpark number. He's 31, plenty of experience. Again, bouncing back from injury, it would be great if he has another year or two left in the tank. That'd be a great value. Some other names: Emmanuel Sanders, Devin Funchess, Amari Cooper, Randall Cobb, Danny Amendola, Travis Benjamin, Rashad Perriman. Some interesting names if we go down the list: Robbie Anderson from the Jets, Geronimo Allison from Green Bay, Nelson Aguilar from Philly. I won't go through all the names, but these are not all options. Like Amari Cooper's not an option. Amari Cooper's not going to be an option. He's probably going to get paid by Jerry Jones. Emmanuel Sanders, no thanks in my opinion. 33 years old. I think what I want to target is a bigger body guy. A guy like AJ Green, I think he's the ideal guy, right? I keep bringing his name up, focused on him. Derek, you said Cobb would be interesting. Dallas probably won't keep him after paying Amari. Yeah, I mean, he's probably a guy that busts loose at 30 years old. Let's see, he played 728 snaps for Dallas last year, 55 receptions, 828 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, for what you're probably going to pay that guy, that's not bad. For a wide receiver 3, it's not bad at all. It's pretty dang good if you compare wide receiver 3s of Seattle to that. If you transfer over that kind of production into a Seattle-like offense, we're definitely probably throwing the ball more, right? So some of you guys that have been wanting more passing would be encouraged by numbers like that. Cobb's an option. Robbie Anderson's an interesting one because he seems to be a guy that would get a pretty decent contract at 27. I just kind of, I don't know where his market value seems like hard to peg. One that's hard to peg to me. He's still relatively young. He was kind of a budding star. I don't want to say superstar, but of all the guys that they've gone through over there with the Jets, be it Anderson or Inunwa, or I know I'm missing another one. I just can't think of it off the top of my head. I mean, they went through, it seems like a handful of guys. Robbie Anderson seems to be the most promising. I definitely think he'll test the market, right, and try and get out of the Jets situation. There's potential for him to not only go to a better team, but obviously make the most money he'll likely make in his career because it'll be a second contract. That's an interesting one to me. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any more interesting names. There's obviously a ton of wide receivers that are going to be available. This draft class is just thick. I think if you want to start talking about drafting a potential guy to play wide receiver 3, wait until at least day 2, please. I definitely don't think this is a day 1 priority, although we have 3 positions to fill, right? And these are just external guys. You can retain one or both of David Moore or Malik Turner. Again, I know they're not the most popular guys in town, but Malik Turner is listen, like he again, sort of like the Hollister thing. He's not the most popular guy based on like what happened recently or some of the drops that he made in key moments, but this is a guy that's developed very well. Been a pleasant surprise this last year in terms of just skill set and what they ask him to do. Um, I've called him like the next Jerron Brown in the sense of like when Shoddy was talking about Jerron Brown being this, he's like a dirty work player. He's a guy that doesn't mind going across the middle, doesn't mind blocking. Malik Turner is that guy, and he's younger and he's a restricted free agent. So, um, I don't think anybody else is gonna obviously make a play for that. Like if you want to bring him back, I think I would prefer him over David Moore if I had to choose between the two. But I wouldn't mind both of those guys coming back and then adding just one free agent like an AJ Green, right? So like, how does this look if you plug in AJ Green, Demo Malik, and Ursua? Um, Not bad. Definitely something you can roll into 2020 with and be happy with. Um, I think people are obviously excited about Ursua over Malik and Demo, and that's fair. I would like to see Ursua too. I mean, he's what 25, 26 years old going into this year. He was an older rookie, so if it's gonna happen for Ursua, it's got to happen fast. He cannot be on this traditional 3-year plan that Seattle has typically had with receivers dating all the way back to like Golden Tate. It's always taken, um, geez, I can't remember other than like Lockett and Metcalf. Okay, Baldwin, Lockett. Yeah, they've had a few. So I'm wrong. They've had a few guys in rookie years produce, but overall, it just seems like it's always taken like 3 years for wide receivers to show their ceiling with Seattle. I that can't. What my original point was is that can't happen for Sua just because of his age. He's got to get going if they're going to develop him, and if he's going to be a potential cog, or a key contributor to this team. I think you got to get him out there like as soon as next year, definitely for sure. So that covers all the positions in terms of team building. Uh, I sort of rambled on. It was cool to have a handful of you guys engaging, giving some feedback. This has been cool. I think I'm gonna do this again in the next couple of days, and we'll go over like team building for defense. But again, in the future, I think my vision for this is to make it a little bit more interactive for people that are for people that are in the live stream. I want it to be entertaining too. I'm not a funny guy. I'm not super entertaining. I really like the strategizing, the team building, the X's and O's. I love that kind of stuff. That's not the most popular thing to talk about. Um, and I also want to do like gaming. Like I said in the introduction, I want to do some gaming with like some other members of Seahawks Twitter, some of the other guys at the Pod. Um, if you guys want to do like a Q&A, like Claus, my good buddy Claus, he says, when is the Q&A? If you think a Q&A section would be cool, if you actually give a crap about my opinion beyond more than I've already blabbered on. If you care for that, then we could do a Q&A. I don't want it to be too structured though. Like I kind of like that it's just laid back, kick back. We're just having a conversation. If we're gaming and we're doing an interview while we're gaming, and there's going to be breaks in the questions. It's not going to be like this very structured interview. We're just going to be playing Madden, having fun, talking a little crap, and then maybe throw in some Seahawks, throw in some Seattle sports, right? We've got a lot of news going on right now. We've got the Seattle Dragons coming up. We've got they just played their first game, so we've got an XFL team. We've got an upcoming NHL team. Hopefully we hear the name soon. We can talk about all these things. I'm not a particularly fond of like, I'm not as big of a fan of the other sports as I am NFL, but Husky hoops, Husky ball, or whatever. Like, I don't have any bias towards Cougars or Huskies or Ducks or anything like that. Like, I'm from Arizona, for those of you who don't know. And I didn't even go to the university there, so like it's not like there's not going to be any like bias towards college if we end up talking about that. But I think most of our conversations are going to be just based off the Twitter following, and Seahawks Twitter are going to be about the Seattle Seahawks. So again, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. This has been fun. It'll be better. It'll be more interactive in the future. So thanks again. We'll be talking to you soon, and see you guys on Twitter. Later.